They had beauty, brains, and crowns, but one uncontrollable desire brought their empires to the ground. These are the women who let lust rewrite their legacy. Welcome to Speaking History, friends. Today we're diving deep into the lives of 6 bold, powerful women who ruled their empires with iron fists. But their most dangerous weapon wasn't just their power. It was something far more destructive: their insatiable lust. These women had everything: wealth, influence, beauty, and loyalty, until their uncontrollable desires tore their thrones apart. Their names became synonymous with scandal and betrayal, with their actions shaking the very foundations of the world they ruled. You may have heard of some of these names, but what you don't know might just shock you. In the coming minutes, we'll reveal the stories of women who let passion destroy their power, and we'll explore how their personal choices sent shockwaves through history, forever changing the way we view power, women, and passion. Stay with us, because you won't want to miss the untold truths behind the rise and fall of these remarkable yet controversial women. Marozia, the woman who slept her way to the papal throne. In the shadows of ancient Rome, beneath the crosses and cathedrals, a woman quietly rewrote the rules of power, not with armies but with desire. Her name was Marozia, and she didn't need a crown to rule. She used something far more dangerous: her seduction. Born into the powerful Theophylact family, Marozia was trained early in the art of control, but she wasn't satisfied with being a nobleman's daughter. She had her eyes on the Vatican, the very heart of religious authority, and instead of waging wars, she conquered it one lover at a time. Her first target? Pope Sergius III, the man sworn to God, the shepherd of souls, became a prisoner to her charms. Marozia didn't just sleep with him. She gave birth to his son, who would later become Pope John XI. Yes, you heard that right. She was the mother of a pope and the lover of another, a puppet master of popes, and it didn't stop there. She became involved with other high-ranking clergy and noblemen, weaving a web of lust and loyalty that made her untouchable. For a period of time, she held more real power in Rome than the Pope himself. It was an age historians now call the pornocracy, a rule of the Roman Church dominated by scandal, corruption, and carnal politics. Her palace was said to be draped in velvet and secrets. Her bedroom? A place where salvation and sin met in whispers and candlelight. She elevated lovers to the highest offices in the church, then discarded them when they no longer served her purpose. Through manipulation, charm, and raw ambition, Marozia turned the most sacred institution in the world into her personal court of desire. But power earned through lust is a dangerous game. Eventually, betrayal came from within her own blood. Her son, yes, the Pope she birthed, turned against her. She was arrested and imprisoned, and her empire of whispers came crashing down. Still, Marozia's legacy remains one of the most shocking in church history. She wasn't just a mistress. She was a queen without a crown, a ruler of Rome without a throne, and the woman who turned the Holy See into a scandalous theater of lust and control. Lucrezia Borgia, the deadly seductress of Italy. In the shadows of Renaissance Italy, where murder wore velvet and power whispered through cathedral walls, one woman ruled with poison, passion, and a smile that could damn a soul. Her name was Lucrezia Borgia. Born into the infamous Borgia family, Lucrezia was more than a daughter. She was a weapon. Her father, Pope Alexander VI, and her brother, Cesare Borgia, used her like a chess piece, marrying her off again and again to secure political alliances. But what they didn't realize was Lucrezia played her own game. Golden-haired, soft-spoken, and ethereal in beauty, Lucrezia appeared innocent. But beneath that angelic face was a woman shaped by betrayal, lust, and survival. Whispers in Rome claimed her beauty was so intoxicating it brought men to their knees, sometimes quite literally. But with Lucrezia, Pleasure often came laced with poison. Her first husband, mysteriously murdered. Her second, left in ruins. And while official records remained clean, the rumors did not. Talk of incest with her brother Cesare and even her father the Pope circulated through every royal court. No proof, just shadows and secrets, and Lucrezia's calm, knowing smile. But she wasn't just a seductress in the bedroom. She was a master of manipulation in the ballroom and council chamber. Her body became a tool of diplomacy. Her bedroom, a battlefield. Every sigh, every glance, every touch was calculated, dangerous, and devastating. Later, as Duchess of Ferrara, she crafted a new image, pious, elegant, regal. But beneath the polished exterior, the seductress remained. She continued to hold secret affairs, maintained her grip on political power, and quietly built a network of influence that rivaled kings. Lucrezia Borgia didn't just survive a ruthless patriarchal world, she conquered it with perfume on her neck and poison in her ring. Her name became synonymous with desire, deceit, and deadly beauty. Even centuries later, one truth remains. She didn't need an army. She had a smile, and men died for it. Diane de Poitiers, the mistress who ruled France. In the glamorous yet cutthroat world of Renaissance France, power didn't just come from royal bloodlines or political alliances. Sometimes it came from the bedroom, and no one knew how to wield that power quite like Diane de Poitiers, the mistress who didn't just share the king's bed, but controlled his crown. Diane was no young damsel. When she met Henry II, he was a shy, awkward 15-year-old prince. She was a 35-year-old widow, graceful, intelligent, and breathtakingly beautiful. The age gap was scandalous, but it only added to the magnetic tension between them. Diane seduced him not with youth, but with elegance, mystery, and a confidence that made her irresistible. Their affair wasn't a secret. It was a performance, on display for the entire French court to see. Henry was obsessed. He adored her, consulted her, and obeyed her like a man under a spell. She wore tight black and white gowns that made heads turn and rumors swirl. She bathed in cold water, drank liquefied gold, and carried herself with the poise of a queen. And in many ways, that's exactly what she was. Henry handed her political power as if she wore the crown herself. Diane signed royal documents, made state decisions, and had more influence than the actual queen, Catherine de Medici. Even Catherine, clever, calculating, and fiercely ambitious, feared her. The king's own wife had to watch helplessly as her husband built fountains, palaces, and entire legacies in Diane's name. But such scandalous power couldn't last forever. The church disapproved. Nobles grew restless. France became divided. Whispers of witchcraft, manipulation, and forbidden passion circled through the corridors of Versailles. Still, Henry remained blind with desire, until the day he was struck in the eye during a jousting tournament. On his deathbed, bleeding and broken, his final request wasn't for his wife or his children, it was for Diane. After his death, the power shifted overnight. Catherine de Medici took the throne as regent and wasted no time reclaiming control. She banished Diane, stripped her of her titles, seized her treasures, and erased her from court. The woman who once ruled through lust and love died in isolation, but her legacy never faded, because Diane de Poitiers wasn't just a royal mistress. She was a political force, a seductress who conquered a king, and a woman who proved that power can be worn like perfume and used like a weapon. Barbara Palmer, England's most notorious royal mistress. In the extravagant courts of Restoration England, where powdered wigs and whispered scandals filled every hall, Barbara Palmer reigned, not as a queen, but as something far more dangerous, the royal mistress who made the throne tremble with desire. She wasn't born into power, but Barbara knew one truth early: beauty was her weapon, and she wielded it like a sword. Tall, Dark-haired, with smoldering eyes and a body that drove the nobility wild, she didn't just walk into court, she seduced it. At just 19, Barbara caught the attention of King Charles II, a monarch famous for his love of women, wine, and pleasure. But what started as a royal fling quickly became something far more scandalous. Barbara became his obsession, his addiction. For over a decade, she ruled his bedroom, and through it, his court. But Barbara didn't stop with the king. Oh no. She openly took other lovers, even while holding the title of royal mistress. Her liaisons with nobles, officers, and even foreign dignitaries became legendary. In an age when women were expected to hide in the shadows, she flaunted her sexuality with pride, turning gossip into influence. And the king? He didn't dare stop her. In fact, he rewarded her, granting her the title Duchess of Cleveland, showering her with estates, jewels, and even recognizing her 5 illegitimate children as his own. 1 mistress, 5 royal bastards, and an entire court wrapped around her finger. They say Barbara turned the palace into a brothel of politics, where favors were traded not in council meetings but in bedrooms. She used her lovers like chess pieces, placing them in powerful positions and pulling strings from behind silk curtains. But with every climax of power came a downfall. As she aged and Charles's interest waned, newer, younger women began circling the king. Barbara's jealousy burned hot, and her once silken charm turned venomous. She lashed out, caused scenes, and refused to go quietly. Eventually, she was cast aside, but never forgotten. Her story remains one of the most scandalous in British royal history. Barbara Palmer didn't just use sex to gain power, she weaponized it, flaunted it, and redefined what it meant to be a mistress. In the end, she wasn't just a woman in the king's bed. She was the woman who held the crown by its collar and made it beg. Isabella of Parma, the forbidden royal romance. In the golden halls of 18th century Spain, Isabella of Parma was the very image of royal grace. A princess born of powerful bloodlines, groomed for diplomacy, marriage, and motherhood. But behind her delicate smile and regal posture was a secret so scandalous it rattled the marble columns of the Spanish court. Isabella's heart and her desires didn't belong to her husband. They belonged to someone far closer and far more forbidden. That someone was her sister-in-law, Maria Cristina. The connection between them was more than friendship, more than sisterhood. It was electric. Unspoken glances turned into hidden touches. Late-night whispers became locked doors and breathless embraces. The palace may have been grand, but there were always shadows, always corners dark enough to hide the heat between them. What started as affection quickly burned into obsession, an incestuous romance that crossed every line of royalty, religion, and morality. Isabella's marriage to Archduke Joseph was nothing more than a royal performance. Her true passion lay in stolen nights with Maria Cristina, where she shed her titles, her duties, and her restraints. But lust has a price. Whispers spread through the court like smoke. Servants spoke in hushed tones. Letters were intercepted. The royal family, horrified, tried to silence the scandal, but it was too late. Isabella's once sharp mind began to fracture. Her diary, later discovered, revealed pages soaked in heartbreak, erotic longing, and self-loathing. The pressure of secrecy, the guilt, and the unbearable weight of forbidden love pushed Isabella into a downward spiral. She became erratic, withdrawn, her mental state unraveling in front of the very court that once praised her poise. The same lips that had once kissed her sister-in-law now trembled with confusion. Her once graceful figure became a ghostly shadow in the palace. And by the time she died, young, broken, and tormented, the court had already labeled her not a princess, but a scandal. Isabella of Parma's story wasn't one of simple love or lust. It was a firestorm that reduced royal dignity to royal disgrace. A woman caught between duty and desire, consumed by a passion the world could never accept. She lived in silk sheets, but died tangled in secrets, and history never forgot the shame she left behind. Soraya Esfandiary, the queen who chose glamour over a kingdom. She was crowned queen, but never wanted to be caged. Soraya Esfandiary wasn't just a royal consort, she was a living fantasy. With hypnotic eyes, porcelain skin, and a sharp defiance that refused to be tamed, she captivated not only the Shah of Iran, but the entire world. Married at just 19 to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the powerful Shah, Soraya quickly became the center of attention in the palace and beyond. But what glittered on the outside hid a marriage strained by one fatal flaw. She couldn't produce an heir. As palace walls began to feel like a prison, Soraya chose something few queens dared: freedom over a throne. And with that decision, she went from a woman in royal silence to a goddess of global headlines. She traded modest veils for curve-hugging gowns, royal dinners for late nights in Paris and Rome. The woman once bound by tradition became a storm of seduction and style, posing for fashion magazines, strutting down runways, and turning heads at every red carpet she touched. She dated movie stars, sipped champagne with Europe's elite, and left a trail of scandal wherever she walked. Marlon Brando, Maximilian Schell, aristocrats, directors, billionaires, men who lusted not just for her beauty but for her aura, her danger, her refusal to bow. The Shah remarried. The crown moved on. But Soraya became something even more powerful than a queen. She became a myth. Her body graced photo spreads that shocked the East and thrilled the West. Her affairs became tabloid obsessions, and her heartbreaks, pure cinema. She wasn't afraid to be bold, bare, and untouchably glamorous. But behind the glitter was still a woman haunted by what she lost: her throne, her country, her love. Soraya Esfandiary didn't die a queen. She died alone, in a Paris apartment, surrounded by photographs of a life lived in extremes. But her story lives on, not as a tale of royalty, but of rebellion, of beauty used as power, and of one woman who turned the world into her stage, even if it meant walking away from a crown. Conclusion: power, lust, scandal. These women weren't just historical figures, they were storms in silk. They ruled not just with crowns, but with desires that shattered palaces and rewrote the rules of royalty. Behind closed doors, in candlelit chambers and forbidden embraces, they made choices that sent shockwaves through empires. From mistresses who controlled kings to queens who broke the rules of love, every story we've uncovered isn't just about sex or scandal, it's about rebellion. These were women who dared to want more, who used their bodies, their charm, their whispers in royal ears, not just to survive, but to rule. Powerful women with even stronger desires. These weren't just scandals, they were historical earthquakes. Lust didn't just burn their thrones, it rewrote history. Now tell us, which story shocked you the most? Was it Diane de Poitiers' iron grip on a king? Isabella of Parma's forbidden affair? Or Soraya's glamorous fall from grace? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories pulled straight from history's darkest, dirtiest corners. Because the past isn't always pure. Sometimes it's dripping with desire.